We'll be discussing now the fibrous skeleton of the heart. The fibrous skeleton of the heart keeps the orifices of AV valves and semilunar valves patent, prevents them from being over-distended by an increased volume of blood, provides attachment for the valves and myocardium, forms an electrical insulator separating the impulses of the atria and ventricles. They contract independently, surrounding and providing passage for the initial part of AV bundle. The fibrous skeleton of the heart consists of four fibrous rings composed of dense connective tissue made up of collagen fibers. Lie in the plane between the atria and the ventricles. This plane corresponds to the atrioventricular groove and or the orifices of the heart. So, composed of dense connective tissue mainly consisting of four fibrous rings. They lie in the plane between the atria and the ventricles that corresponds to the atrioventricular groove at the bases of both the ventricles. Fibrous skeleton includes four fibrous rings, that is the mitral valve, that is the left atrioventricular valve, the right ventricular valve, that is the tricuspid valve, the pulmonary semilunar valves and the aortic semilunar valves, and connections between these individual fibrous rings. The fibrous skeleton merges with the membranous part of the septum. The fibrous skeleton consists of four rings, that is, two rings 1 and 2 and two cornets 3rd and 4th. The left fibrous ring consists of the bicuspid wall or the tricuspid wall or the mitral wall. The right fibrous ring is the tricuspid wall. The pulmonary ring corresponds to the pulmonary wall. The aortic ring corresponds to the aortic valve. And two trigones, that is the right and the left fibrous trigone and membranous part of the intraatrial septum. Trigone fibrosum dextrotum, that is the right fibrous trigone. Trigone fibrosum sinistrum, that is the left fibrous trigone. The membranous part of interatrial and interventricular. The four such rings are four orifices of the heart. Atrioventricular rings for the tricuspid opening, for the bicuspid opening which almost resembles the H-shaped. The aortic ring present at the root of aorta, the pulmonary ring present at the root of pulmonary trunk. The rings are interconnected and form the skeleton of the heart. The AV rings, that is the right and the left AV rings, are connected by a large mass of fibrous tissue, that is trigone fibrosum dextrum, that is a right fibrous trigone. Or it's also known as the central fibrous body. Then the mitral ring is connected to the aortic ring by a small mass of fibrous tissue, and that is known as trigonum fibrosum sinistrum or the left fibrous trigone. The pulmonary ring lies above and to the left of aortic ring, and both the rings are at right angles to each other. The pulmonary ring and the aortic ring are connected by the tendon of infundibulum. The two atria and the two ventricles are attached to the pair of conjoined fibrous ring which is formed by the figure of 8 which bounds the atrioventricular orifice. The two cornets are crown-like which surround the root of aorta and the pulmonary trunk. The pulmonary trunk lies higher level than the aortic valve, and it's connected by the fibrous skeleton by a conus ligament or the infundibular ligament. Aortic annulus is a central. These interconnected fibrous rings form the skeleton of the heart. They basically are important, that is, they provide attachment to the atrial and ventricular musculature. They support the valves of the heart, that is the bicuspid valve, tricuspid valve, the aortic and the pulmonary trunk. They give attachment to the aortic and pulmonary trunk, support the valves and also give attachment to the pulmonary and the aortic orifice. The muscular fibers are anchored to the fibrous skeleton of the heart and reinforces the myocardial internally. The fibrous skeleton disturbs the continuity between the atria and the ventricular musculature. Hence, propagation of the impulses from atria and to ventricles is only by the conducting system, which is a specialized cardiac musculature. So, function of the fibrous skeleton, it forms the central support to the heart. It provides attachment to the bicuspid and tricuspid valves directly, cardiac muscle fibers of atria and ventricles, and membranous part of the interventricular septum. It keeps the cardiac valves competent. It acts as an electrical insulator, blocks the direct spread of electrical impulses from the atria to the ventricles. Impulses go only through the bundle of His, prevents the overdistension of the valve opening. So therefore to note that the tricuspid valves and the mitral valves are directly attached to the fibrous skeleton ring. Semilunar valves are directly attached to the valve wall of the vessel, not to the ring. So coming to the clinical importance, in processes operation of the heart valves, the fibrous skeleton is capable of holding the sutures under persistent tension. Weakness of it may lead to the cardiac wall incompetence, means incomplete closure, leading to the mitral regurgitation, aortic regurgitation and tricuspid regurgitation. Coming to the conducting system of the heart, which is made up of specialized cardiac muscle fibers responsible for initiation and conduction of the cardiac impulses. These impulses cause the cardiac muscle contraction. The components of the conducting system are the SA node or sinoatrial node, the AV node or the atrioventricular node. Then we have the AV bundle or atrioventricular bundle of His. Then branches, the right and the left branches of the AV bundle. This finally break up into Purkinje fibers. Now coming to the sinoatrial node, also known as node of Keith and Flack, situated in the wall of right atrium in the upper part of the sulcus terminalis, just below the opening of the superior vena cava. It is called the pacemaker of heart because it generates the impulses and initiates the contraction of the cardiac muscle, producing the heartbeats. Impulses travel through the atrial wall to reach the AV node. Impulses or the heartbeat or the heart rate is around 70 to 100 beats per minute. This is interatrial bundle. The SA node gives three branches which reach the AV node: anterior, middle and posterior internodal tract. Anterior internodal tract of Bachmann, middle internodal tract of Van Bach's and posterior internodal tract of Thorel. These three internodal tracts finally reach the AV node. The atrioventricular node or the AV node is also known as node of Tavara, smaller than SA node. It's located in the triangle of Koch. In other words, it's located in the lower and dorsal part of the atrial septum just above the opening of the coronary sinus. It generates the impulse at the rate of 40 to 60 per minute. Now coming to the atrioventricular bundle of His. It begins from the AV node and crosses the AV ring, travels along the intraventricular septum, that is the membranous part, divides at the upper part of the muscular interventricular septum into right and left branches. Right and left bundle branches. Now coming to the right and left bundle branches. The right branch of AV bundle passes down the right surface of the interventricular septum. Most of it enters the moderator band or septomarginal band to reach the anterior wall of right ventricle. And finally, it divides into minute branches, that is the Purkinje fibers. Likewise, the left branch of AV bundle goes along the left surface of interventricular septum. Coming to the Purkinje fibers, these are the terminal branches of the right and left bundle of His. Right and left bundle of His. They form subendocardial plexus. They generate the impulses at the rate of 20 to 35 beats per minute. So right bundle branch mainly traverses the moderator band or septomarginal band. Left bundle branch breaks up into two branches, left posterior and left anterior fasciculi, before they finally break up into Purkinje fibers. So cardiac conducting system therefore consists of the sinoatrial node, the pacemaker, AV node or atrioventricular node, which is present in the triangle of Koch, atrioventricular bundle, the Purkinje fibers. So SA node, that is the sinoatrial node. Okay, it finally divides mainly into four branches. One, the interatrial pathway through which it reaches the left atrium, and this is known as Blackman's bundle. And it divides into anterior, middle and posterior branches, internodal branches, which reaches the AV node. AV node in turn gives rise to the bundle of His or AV bundle, and each bundle further divides. So this bundle runs along the membranous part of the interventricular septum. At the upper end of the muscular interventricular septum, it divides into right branch of bundle of His and the left branch of bundle of His. Finally, these bundle of His branches finally divide into minute branches, that is the Purkinje fiber. So SA node is responsible for the first bit, that is mainly due to contractions of the atrium, and which helps finally into the closure of AV valves, which is responsible for the first sound of the heart. And second sound of the heart mainly results by the contractions of the left by the ventricles, and that is mainly by the closures of semilunar valves of the aorta and the pulmonary. So overall, the fibrous skeleton of the heart lies in the plane between the atrium and ventricles. The muscles of the atria are not in continuity with the muscles of the ventricle because of the fibrous skeleton. The fibrous skeleton is therefore a bad conductor of electrical impulses. In other words, it prevents a direct entry of electrical impulses from atria to ventricle. Electrical impulses from atria to ventricle goes only by the bundle of His. Although each cardiac muscle has capacity to generate and conduct electrical impulse, the fibrous skeleton therefore helps in coordination of conduction of electrical impulses to the ventricle and coordinating the ventricular contraction. Heart is finally myogenic. So therefore, The action potential is generated by the muscle itself, not by the nerve. The conducting system of the heart is made up of cardiac muscles. The nerves supply the heart can only influence and modify the rate of impulse production. If all the nerves are cut, even then the heart will continue to beat because of the impulses from the SA node. Sympathetic nerve stimulation increases the rate of the impulse generation. Parasympathetic vagus nerve stimulation decreases the rate of impulse. Accessory AV bundles are also seen in close proximity with common atrioventricular bundle or sometimes around the mitral and tricuspid annuli. This explains the causes of supraventricular tachycardia or other types of cardiac arrhythmia. Blood supply nearly whole conducting system except the left AV bundle is supplied by right coronary artery. The left branch of AV bundle is supplied by left coronary artery. Coming to the applied aspect, arrhythmias, it is a loss of normal rhythm of contraction of the heartbeat, mainly due to the damage of conducting. So with this, thank you very much. We have completed the fibrous skeleton of the heart and the conducting system, which is very important. Kindly practice the diagrams.